Losing your job is never easy. A really close friend of mine recently lost his job, and in this difficult time, he did not know his rights and wanted to know if his termination was lawful or not. Termination documents are usually written in dense and complicated German, and struggling to find legal advice in your native language or even in English language makes this experience very complicated and stressful. That is why it is absolutely essential to know your rights. Can your permanent job contract be terminated without a reason? Is it wise to sign a termination agreement? Can you take legal action against wrongful termination? I'm going to answer all of these important questions, so watch this video till the end so that you know your rights in Germany. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ahsan. I'm a researcher, and on this channel we discuss business and personal finance in Germany. Let's start with the most important question. Is there anything like a permanent job in Germany? Yes and no if you have a permanent job contract. Yes, in the fact that your contract is for an unlimited time frame, meaning that you do not have to renew your contract every couple of months or years. No, in the fact that under certain conditions, even your permanent job contract can be terminated. The termination conditions can be generally divided into ordinary and extraordinary termination. In ordinary termination conditions, the job contract is ended based on the conditions written on the job contract. For example, if you have a 1-year contract in your company and upon the end of this 1-year period, your company decided not to extend this contract. This will result in ordinary termination at the end of the 1-year contract period. In extraordinary termination, a reason for the dismissal needs to be given by the employer. If a very important reason exists, the job contract can even be terminated without a notice period, effective immediately. I have another friend who had a 2-year contract with a probation period of 6 months. At the end of month number 8, he was given a termination notice citing a condition from his contract that he did not fulfill. Within his contract was a condition that in the first 6 months of employment, he would get sufficient German language skills by getting a B1 German language certificate. Unfortunately, he was not able to get this certification, and he also did not show any progress in his language skills during day-to-day work in his company. His employer gave him an additional 2 months, but he did not fulfill his contract conditions, and that is why his contract was terminated. He did manage to retain his contract, but I will discuss that later on in the video. My friend got a termination notice, but if you have received a termination without notice, the best thing would be to contact a lawyer immediately. That being said, the lawyer fees are usually very high and can be an additional burden upon you. In this situation, having legal insurance can save you from legal fees. I'll put links to some of the best and reasonably priced legal insurances below the like button. Next, we will discuss the conditions an employer needs to fulfill when terminating a contract. It is essential to check if all of the legal requirements for termination have been fulfilled by your company. For example, the termination letter must be signed by hand by a person that is authorized to terminate your contract. So a supervisor in many instances would not be the person responsible to sign your termination letter. This letter can be given to you in person, dropped in your mailbox at the office, or delivered to your home address using a trackable mail. A trackable mail is important so that if you are on holidays or not at home, this letter would be resent to you at your address. Termination notice given verbally, through text message or email will not be considered valid. That being said, notice given verbally or by email can be considered as a warning that you are about to get a written notice very soon. The notice period varies according to how long you have worked for your company and is given in section 622 of the German Civil Code. Your job contract can have a different notice period length, so be sure to check your contract for that. If you are on probation, the termination can be given by you or your employer for a much smaller period of time. Coming back to my friend's termination, he was given 1 month's notice period based on his contract conditions. As he had not taken any holidays during his employment, he was entitled to 22 days of paid leave, making his termination period effective by the end of the month. What he did was he asked his employer to give him 2 months of unpaid leave in addition to his current paid leave, so that he would have 3 months to get a B1 language certificate. His employer agreed, and within 3 months, my friend passed the B1 exam and got his certificate. Not only did he continue his job after that, but he also got a permanent job contract when he resumed. Let me know in the comments below what he did was the right thing or not, and what would you have done if you were in his shoes. His termination was based on a reason. Is it possible to be terminated with no reason? Well, if you work in a small company with less than 10 employees, unfortunately, you have no statutory protection against dismissal. Same is true if you are still in the first 6 months of your employment or in the probation period. Your company only needs to give a statutory notice period as discussed earlier. This was also true for my friend who just lost his job. He was working in a company having less than 10 employees. That is why he was unable to do anything about his termination. That being said, if you are working for a company with more than 10 employees and have already finished your probation period of 6 months, then the termination needs a valid reason. Although the employer does not have to give a reason when giving the termination notice. The reasons for termination can be divided into 3 categories: behavioral, operational, and personal. A behavioral reason for termination usually involves the employee's actions. For example, if they have been accused of stealing something or something more serious like harassment. Operation reasons might mean that the employer is performing some structural changes in the company's operations. For example, a department has not been performing well and that department is being dissolved, or there are extreme financial situations in the company leading to the closure of a plant or a location. Or maybe having employees in Germany is too costly and your company is outsourcing to maintain its operations. A personal reason could be that the employer does not see the employee's character as a fit for the company. For example, the employee is constantly absent or does not perform well in the working environment. In any case, it's always important to seek legal advice, and if you're getting value from this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to share the video so that others can also know their rights. The next important thing to consider is severance pay. On termination, some employees get severance pay from their employer to reduce or totally remove the notice period. For some, this can be a great option, but for others, it can be something very disastrous, as companies often use severance payments as a part of the termination agreement. Often that agreement includes the severance pay conditional on not taking the case to the labor court. By accepting the severance, you may waive your right to object to your employment termination. The termination letter is something that should be taken seriously, as the conditions written on it may include things like waiving of your right to object your termination or an inclusion of a shorter notice period. Some malicious employers also make the termination agreement in a way that encourages employees to leave the company voluntarily, meaning that there could be no severance pay or a notice period altogether. So if you find yourself or someone you know in a situation where a termination letter is presented, please act carefully and get assistance to analyze the letter properly, because if you sign this agreement, then you cannot do anything later on. What about expats on blue card? Well, if you are an expat who has a blue card residence permit based on your job, then getting fired from your job can make things even more complicated. Upon termination, you are obliged to notify your local Ausländerbehörde. You may be given some time to find a new job, but how much time you get depends on your city and your specific Ausländerbehörde. Generally, a maximum of 6 months is given in many cases to find a new job. If you have paid contributions to the German system for a year, you may also be entitled for unemployment benefits during your job search period. But in some cases, you might not get these benefits deep into your unemployment. In that case, having an emergency fund is absolutely crucial to help you and your family survive in this difficult time. In this video, I share exactly how to build an emergency fund. So thanks for watching, bleib gesund, and I'll see you in this video.